Well, hello there. Long time no see, right? If you've been wondering where I've been over the last several years, this video should explain some of that. I struggled with whether or not to even bother doing something like this, but it seems like it may be worth doing as a way to sort of close out this chapter. You may have noticed that comments are disabled on my videos now. Even though I haven't been actively posting content on this channel for 5 years, some people have carried on commenting and trying to engage with me, sometimes on videos that are more than a decade old by this point. I'm not faulting anyone who felt like sharing their 2 cents on a topic I discuss, but, it's kind of different when people post comments aimed at you specifically. And predictably, as soon as I started disabling comments, I got some feedback implying I'm afraid of criticism. Well, here's one big whopping large reason why I've disabled the comments. It's not that I'm afraid of engaging with those that disagree with my conclusions. I did that for about 6 years straight on this channel while it was most active, and my interest in continuing to do it has pretty much dried up. But there is also an element of disgust rather than fear, to be honest. It's a disgust with the type of person that feels entitled to a conversation or debate on the internet, no matter how uninformed or bigoted their views might be. I'm still happy to dialogue with people that are genuinely interested in dialogue. In my opinion, though, YouTube stopped being a good forum for this some time ago, if it ever really was. In the time that I've been absent from here, I went back to college and got a degree in philosophy with a minor in religious studies. It's a decision I'm glad I made, yet it changed a couple things for me that probably decreased my desire to stick around on YouTube. One of those was just the regular experience of constructive in-person dialogue with other educated people, or at the least people that share the same interests and know what studying actually means. The other part of it was uncovering more of the nuance and variety of perspectives on some of the old philosophical positions and arguments I'd previously taken for granted. No, I didn't lose my atheism, so don't worry. But it did what college often does for a lot of people. It helped me develop more respect and understanding of different ways of thinking and living. I was never really into things like the culture of ownage videos here on YouTube, but that isn't even the worst it's been. It's easy to point to things like the explosion of reaction videos and list videos for hindering the quality of content, yet YouTube atheism more specifically has proven to be susceptible to the same sorts of popularity and algorithm-chasing tactics, and that's not something I'm particularly fond of. The atheist community is not what it used to be either. I mean, let's be honest. We've got Sam Harris entertaining race science with Charles Murray, Richard Dawkins victim-blaming rape survivors for drinking, a slew of sexual misconduct accusations against many prominent atheist men, a whole new generation of clowns like Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay, who attempted one of the worst hoax papers in history, only to turn around and defend it with all the terrible reasoning of a creationist, and the latter even proudly announcing their intent to vote for Trump in 2020 to, own the libs? And this is only a small sliver of the broader problems within the community. Internal problems and disagreements are one thing, but if there's anything the last 4 or 5 years should have taught us, perhaps it's that there are far more pressing issues deserving our attention domestically and globally right now than just the evidentiary or rational basis of a belief in gods. The mentality of atheism plus nothing is hardly that much better than Jesus plus nothing, when you broaden your scope to include more of what's going on in the world outside your own little niche. It's disheartening to see how many people in the atheist community have rushed to defend the worst behavior by the worst culprits. One of the most common responses I've heard and seen atheists give to religious believers challenging them on their moral values has been a combination of asserting that atheism implies no acceptance of a specific moral theory, that it's possible to be good without God, and by the way, what about all these terrible things religion has done? Now, I made these claims myself for years, and while I don't think they're bad claims, especially when the religious challenge to atheistic morality is usually more about defending faith than asking a sincere question, I can't see it as enough to leave things here. It's not just about making atheism look good. Many are not satisfied with an atheist community that only involves itself in justice and politics whenever atheists are being discriminated against, when church-state separation isn't respected, or when science comes under attack. If you're more concerned about keeping the movement pure, or mostly involve yourself in the issues when criticizing efforts to fight racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, and other injustices, I don't question your identity as an unbeliever, but I do wonder about the values you live by. And I'm not at all convinced anymore that such a passive form of atheism makes any significant difference to the world around us. But hey, maybe that's not your concern in the first place. Atheism is just the lack of belief in gods, right? Then speaking genuinely, who cares? If we leave the same moral footprint on the world around us as newborn babies and inanimate objects, who really cares? When left with this cheery conclusion, talking people out of their religious beliefs is almost an act of cruelty, given that many religious believers do at least desire to do some good in the world and believe that to be an important aspect of their faith. People need more to live on than just the confidence that their ontological beliefs are right. The growth of arrogance as somewhat of a staple in the movement has been practically undeniable, though. I may catch flack for this from some fellow non-believers, but there's a degree of cognitive dissonance to me that seems to be required for us to pride ourselves on being rational at the same time we celebrate owning and destroying people and worldviews, hanging up on collars, and similar approaches that are really not about considering evidence or arguments as much as they're about building ourselves up and cultivating an image. I personally see these as examples of intellectual arrogance at play, and while it's true in principle that being arrogant doesn't make someone wrong, this is too quick and dirty a retort that expresses what I think is a fundamental lack of appreciation for how intellectual vices like arrogance actually affect the rationality of our own thinking and behavior. No big surprise that celebrating what amounts to intellectual arrogance often translates to a sense of entitlement either. Entitlement to a conversation or debate, even among atheists, but also entitlement to other things like status and positions of influence, regardless of one's conduct. I'm not saying arrogance is the primary problem or the primary explanation of the numerous issues confronting the community. I'm just saying it's a factor, one to which we rarely pay any real attention, and it's hard to want to participate in a movement or community where it so regularly obstructs dialogue and tries to shut down criticism. Of course, there are still people in the atheist community doing great work and calling attention to important issues. I don't think it's a stretch to say that most of this is not done on YouTube, though. I'm always grateful to fans that have enjoyed the work I put into my videos, articles, and other content. I'm leaving my videos up for that reason more than any other. If you don't mind reading, I'm still active on my website and blog, where I talk about a lot more than just atheism and religion. Some of what I've said in this video is discussed further on those platforms, too. You might take away from this that I'm choosing to pick my own battles and invest my time and energy more carefully. That's how I see it. What this has to do with YouTube and the atheist community in general may still not be as clear, but perhaps the reminder is worth it. YouTube's going to do what YouTube does. But to an extent, atheism will be as relevant as atheists choose to be. I'm not so interested in defining myself so much by that social identity anymore for the reasons stated. Although it would be nice to someday feel that pride again of belonging to a movement that stands for something important. Thanks for listening.